So do you want to see if we're going to do 12:30 or 12:45? We should do this. Or just... Okay, so she's got an hour. Okay, good. I were there about the same time. You were. It was a voting party. A lot of people there.
Okay, so our plan is to go till 12:30. During case does the witness issue work for you?
Thank you. We've resolved it, and our witness will be available whenever today. So we're fine on that issue.
Okay. Judy Frost, you're still under oath?
Thank you. I believe we were discussing Officer Tarleton and his, I believe he's coming later today as well. So Officer Tarleton is the one that made these allegations, and you were telling me that you believe these were credible enough, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, credible enough to warrant an investigation.
I believe they were serious enough with everything else I've learned to have an investigation, yes.
Okay, and we've discussed this one about alcohol, no alcohol smell, and no report at the time whatsoever. And then he's also talking about something a few months earlier that had absolutely nothing to do with Chief Swanson's being on duty, correct? This was a personal issue, and there was an allegation that he arrived and he may or may not have been driving, but there was no indication that he was, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that was found credible enough to somehow warrant an investigation?
So I think you're doing the thing where you're picking every single incident. What I'm saying is 3 pages of notes or 2.5 pages of notes with one employee based on all the other information I had. I thought that was all enough, credible enough to look into an investigation.
Okay, but we're talking about what you considered serious enough, right? Serious, not just the number of complaints. You were talking about serious complaints, right?
I'm talking about the totality of everything I've learned at that point warranted an investigation, in my opinion.
And everything you learned up to that point is contained in this 10/18/2024. Oh, by the way, I meant to ask you, this 10/18/24, that actually was one day after you requested by email for any employees who had complaints to come forward?
I don't have the email in front of me.
Okay, we can look at that. I actually wrote it down, what the number was, where it was, but then somehow it has disappeared, but we can find it. So, it's in the hearing transcript. And there's an exhibit. Here it is. All right. 9/11. Do you see that?
Yes.
All right, and on October 17th, you wrote that you had been hearing various complaints at that point, correct?
Yes.
But you're telling me that on 10/18/2024, that this and the Michelle Sutherland complaints were the only ones you had received.
So what had happened was people started talking about complaints and saying certain things of what was happening with Chief Swanson at the time. Talking to council, the advice was there's a difference between, as management, having someone just say something in conversation and coming to you as official complaint. So I sent the email to say, I'm going to disregard just what people were saying the last few days. If you feel like there's something you want to make a complaint about or have concerns about officially, please come see me. So that was the difference.
Do you have any notes about those initial ones, the ones that you were referring to here in your October 17th email?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. So you had been hearing various things not officially.
In this context, yes.
And who were you hearing those non-official things from?
Employees in the department.
Which employees?
I believe Corporal Murphy had talked to me. I believe I talked to Liz Turco, but it might have just been a reference to the incident on the 13th. I don't know if there's anything else involved in that. Michelle Sutherland had talked to me, and Beth had talked to me.
And then after you sent this, the only people that came forward with anything formal was Owen Tarleton and Michelle Sutherland.
Once it became clear that people were going to come forward with official complaints, I stopped meeting with anyone and moved the path to have an investigation started.
So are you saying that the other people made formal complaints and you did not record them?
No, I'm saying I stopped receiving complaints from the people, stopped meeting with people, and moved for the path to have an investigator come in.
So you did not receive any additional complaints after Michelle Sutherland and Owen Tarleton because you stopped asking for them?
I made it clear that we're going down a different path.
So did you instruct people not to make any complaints at that point?
What I believe my recollection was that we're going to have a private investigator come in, and that would be people's opportunity to discuss their concerns at that point.
Okay. So moving on, another thing that led you to launch this investigation, according to this from Owen Tarleton, was that he said that one night Chief Swanson showed up, was acting weird, and somebody said maybe he had something to drink, but there were no reports that he was impaired or smelled. And that was something that you considered serious?
Again, to my previous answer, it's not one incident in this piece of paper. It's not one incident in this conversation with the officer. It is the totality of what he spoke to me. It's what I had learned. It's from the incident on October 13th, Swanson's lack of response to me or reach out to me. It's all that combined created a scenario where it seemed the best interest in the village was to have an investigation done to see what was going on.
A secret investigation that was not meant to be shared with Chief Swanson.
He was told in a meeting with myself and Chief Green, his former counsel, that we're going to do an investigation, I believe early in November.
But he wasn't provided the reasons for that investigation.
He was a few weeks later.
Several weeks later. The first time he found out any reasons was in late November.
Okay.
Okay. Owen Tarleton also said he was disappointed in Chief Swanson's lack of commitment to the department, correct? He told you that?
Yes.
Were you aware that Owen Tarleton refused to go to the police academy to get training?
My recollection is me telling Chief Swanson to make Owen Tarleton go to the academy and Chief Swanson not pushing him as hard as I thought he should have.
Were you aware that there was a contract in place that Owen Tarleton had to go to the academy by May of 2025 or he would lose his job?
Yes, I believe Chief Blish was the one that set that up.
So you were aware that Chief Swanson had in fact set it up that he needed to get this training or he wouldn't be part of the department?
When Owen Tarleton was hired, Chief Blish was the chief of police and Chief Blish did that contract, not Joe Swanson.
Okay, but that was in place that he would not be there any longer if he did not comply.
Correct.
And somehow you're blaming that on Chief Swanson, that Officer Owen Tarleton refused to go to the academy?
No, I had conversations with Chief Swanson about seeing if Owen would go to the academy, if not, to have a conversation with him about his future there. And I do not believe those conversations happened the way they should have.
Okay.
I have a question. When did Owen Tarleton resign?
March of 2025.
Thank you.
So that was actually before he needed to resign based on any kind of contractual reasons.
Yes, but I don't know when the next academy was going to start. I think he had missed, my recollection is he had missed the last academy before the May deadline had happened, and he did not show an interest, I believe, in going to the next academy.
Owen Tarleton's allegations around the drinking that you considered serious and part of the reason for launching an investigation. They never actually appeared in Mr. Burgess's investigation, did they?
Correct.
So Mr. Burgess actually was not instructed to investigate that.
Again, Burgess's contract states that he was to look into any complaints that come up during his investigation. I believe the conversation around the alcohol was that it is nearly impossible to prove in the past.
I'm not asking you for hearsay, I'm asking you for a fact.
I'm asking you what I believe my conversation with Burgess was around that.
I'm not asking for your conversations, I'm asking you for the fact that Mr. Burgess did not address that allegation in his report.
Correct.
Okay. And in fact, nothing was ever verified whatsoever related to allegations against Chief Swanson that he had at any time consumed alcohol while on duty, correct?
There was never any findings of that, no.
You testified that you had serious concerns about retaliation at the time that Mr. Burgess was hired.
Yes.
There had never, ever been any kind of issues with Chief Swanson retaliating against any staff member, was there? Prior to this point?
Not that I'm aware of.
However, allegations had been made against you, as we've seen in Exhibit K, for retaliating against staff members, correct?
I would not say I retaliated against staff members.
Pardon me?
I would not say I retaliated against staff members.
I'm not saying if you would say it. I'm saying allegations had been made against you that you retaliated against staff members.
Those are the emails you have?
You saw them.
I did?
You saw the word retaliation in there. You want me to look at them again?
No.
So you're aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you testified earlier also that Chief Swanson did not take you up on the opportunity to respond to anything you were saying. Didn't you have a meeting with Attorney myself and Chief Swanson?
Yes, I clarified that after the question was asked.
Okay, so the first answer that you did not, the first answer that
I spoke incorrectly, and then as my attorney was speaking, I made the clarification that there was a meeting with you present.
you forgot about the meeting that we had in January of 2020.
In the moment when the question was asked, I did forget, yes, and I clarified a moment later.
And in fact, when Chief Swanson met, he did in fact address what you had alleged and offered to make any corrections that you desired, correct?
My recollection was things he'd said about, if I have to wear my uniform, I just need to be told. If I have to take sick time, I just need to be told. And those are statements that I thought you should not have to have with your police chief.
I'm not asking you what you thought. I'm saying he told you that he would make whatever corrections you desired.
In so many words, yes, but I thought the way he phrased it was inappropriate for a police
I didn't
chief.
ask you about what you thought. I'm just asking you for the facts. So the facts, he also offered to drop any possible legal action and make everything right if you reinstated him at that point.
I took that as a threat of a lawsuit, because at that time there was no lawsuit happening.
But he offered to withdraw any potential claims of it when, correct?
He offered to withdraw something that was not currently ongoing, and I took it as a threat that if I did not reinstate him, he was going to sue me. Which has
Again,
happened.
I'm not asking you what you thought. I'm just asking you what he said.
I feel I can give my interpretation of that event, so I did.
Right, but he told you that also that he would do whatever he could to follow, even change written policies to your satisfaction if you felt that you needed some changes in the written policies.
I don't recall that.
Okay. You also testified yesterday that you didn't know that you were accused of bias until basically this hearing, but you do know that back in May, you were served a civil suit that had multiple counts of discrimination and bias, correct?
Correct?
Okay. And in response to questions about sharing videos and your, again, thoughts and interpretations about what was going on with Chief Swanson and why you somehow came to this conclusion that it wasn't for the sharing of legal advice, because you said attorneys don't offer, that wouldn't be something an attorney would do, would be to offer advice?
I don't,
Testimony.
Okay, let's clarify it. We can clarify it. You said that somehow you didn't believe that this was an attorney-client consultation because it wasn't something that an attorney would comment upon, the issue of the traffic stop and what was going on and who was at fault, that type of thing.
I think that also mischaracterizes his testimony.
Can you start with an open-ended question?
Yeah,
about
sure.
this?
Since I don't remember the exact testimony either, so let me clarify. Is it your testimony that Chief Swanson was not sharing videos for legal advice?
correct.
And that's somehow an interpretation that you made based on your understanding of how attorneys work?
No, in the emails, there's no ask for legal advice or no ask for, can you represent us in this or can you give us your professional opinion? It's just emails back and forth with the spouse.
But you've seen the clarification in affidavits by both Chief Swanson and Attorney Selden that and actually it was even in the Burgess report, that they did in fact consult about things such as who was at fault and which operator should be listed under which category. You've seen that.
Yes?
Right. And it's your interpretation and opinion that someone such as Attorney Selden wouldn't be qualified to offer advice on that issue?
I don't think it's his position as a spouse of the police chief to offer that opinion. No.
So you formed this opinion somehow that a spouse cannot offer legal advice to their spouse?
I don't think they should be shared with confidential information or ongoing investigation documents, no.
Okay. You've never made a policy about that, have you? A specific spousal exception?
An exception to share confidential information with the spouse?
Yeah. I know, in terms of a legal consultation, you never specifically said it cannot be somebody related to someone in the department.
No, I didn't think I would need to tell my police chief he can't share confidential information with people.
And when you call it confidential, you're aware that it was not a criminal matter.
No, but it was an ongoing investigation.
Okay. And anytime information is shared for legal advice, it would be confidential information, correct?
Between a client and their attorney?
Yes.
I don't know all the legalities of the relationship, so I don't want to speak for that. But my understanding is most of it would be.
Are you aware that at the time that the consultation occurred, that the investigation had concluded? The investigation part of it, it was now only about the paperwork and who should be charged?
I still believe that the investigation wasn't completed. I don't think their report was done.
And you've discounted the testimony, or not the testimony, but the affidavits of two chief experts. I think we already went through this. Your opinion on this about who should be providing legal advice and who's qualified and spousal, those are things that you have come up with independently.
I said it. I think it's common sense and public knowledge how that should work. I think if I seek out advice from my father about something happening in the municipality, he's going to give me advice that's going to benefit me more than the municipality. And I don't think that's incorrect. I think if you don't have a formal relationship with an attorney, they should not be giving you advice because it's the municipality's job to protect the residents. And that's what I feel happened here.
Is your father an attorney?
He is not.
Okay. And my question was, and I will say it a different way, so you have determined that you said common sense, you're the arbiter of what common sense and reasonableness is above the police chiefs that have offered opinions in this case.
I did not say that.
So you do?
I said I did not agree with past practices that Chief Bush felt were okay.
Okay. And you have no evidence whether in fact Chief Swanson did have a formal relationship with his husband regarding legal services.
So when it comes to the police department, that would be an agreement with the municipality and the attorney, not with the department head and an attorney.
Well, not according to Chief Blish, correct?
And again, I disagree with past practices that he used.
Okay. But you never informed anyone about changing anything Chief Blish had put in place, did you? Regarding those
So
issues?
as I said yesterday or this morning, I was unaware that this was happening.
Okay, moving on to your allegations about Homeland Security. You're still saying that somehow Chief Swanson did something inappropriate by going to watch his husband in court when you had authorized the time off, correct?
I authorized the time off. I did not know when I authorized the time off that A, Homeland Security was going to be visiting us, and B, the time off was for something that was happening down the streets.
Okay.
If I had known Homeland Security was going to be there, I would have asked him to not take the time or take an hour or two to be present for that conversation.
Do you think, as town manager, you have the authority above Chief Swanson to decide who needs to be present for a meeting with officials that are coming when it wasn't his case? He had assigned it to Sergeant O'Keefe?
If I'd known that the Homeland Security was coming, I would have asked my police chief to be present at least at some point in the day, probably in the beginning of the day, to show the department's being there, that we're being supportive, and that he leads the department. Then he could have handed it off to his sergeant and gone to court to watch his husband if he wanted to. That I would have been okay with that.
Well, in fact, he did. It was Sergeant O'Keefe's case, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And he did hand it off to Sergeant O'Keefe to handle.
No, I mean, the day of when Homeland Security was there, I would have liked him to be present when they arrived, introduce the department to them as the chief of police, as the head figure of the department, hand it off to Sergeant O'Keefe if he had to, and then if he had to leave. I think I would have preferred Homeland Security to see a police chief and a police chief to be involved in those conversations.
How do you know Chief Swanson wasn't there at the beginning? Was there ever any testimony that he wasn't there at the beginning?
I believe he stayed to the day off and went to court.
You don't know that, do you?
That is my understanding of the events.
So you've never talked to Sergeant O'Keefe and you don't know that that's exactly the procedure that you've described is what happened?
I can ask him, but that's not how I understand it happened.
So you didn't ask him, you just assumed?
I believe Chief O'Keefe what he said.
Well, he didn't tell you he wasn't there ever, he just said he wasn't there for the meeting, right? With the Homeland
I'd
Security?
have to review the testimony.
Okay, so aside from the fact that you don't have the information that Chief Swanson was actually there, you still believe that you have the right to dictate who should be at certain meetings rather than the police chief who has that authority?
I believe I have the authority to dictate what meetings I want my police chief to be at, yes. I am their direct supervisor.
Okay. But you've never conveyed any of those policies in writing to any of your chiefs of police, have you, in terms of what you want to happen if there's any meetings that are going to be taking place?
The way I would envision my relation with them working is they would tell me ahead of time what's happening, and then we'd have a conversation on what they should or shouldn't be doing in that situation.
But you've never indicated a policy that you wanted to dictate how they managed their day-to-day meetings outside of that?
I think that's pretty clear in the municipal manager department head relationship.
And you don't believe you have the right to dictate how Chief Swanson uses his time when he applies for time off and you grant it, do you?
No.
And you don't believe that you have the ability to instruct him that he should be in the office rather than going to court watching his gay husband try a case, do you?
I have the authority to not approve vacation time.
But once you've approved it, you don't believe you have authority to then go back and decide what a person should and shouldn't be doing with that time?
No, I do think if a situation comes up and I need them to be present, I think I can have a conversation with them to see if we can rescind the vacation time if it's not imperative.
Did you inquire about what was going on?
I was not told by Chief Swanson that Homeland Security was coming, I believe.
Okay, and so you also introduced something from Lisa Linton that, again, her transcript that she gave to Mr. Burgess. You never even called Lisa Linton at the first hearing, did you?
We asked her to testify and she did not.
She refused?
I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she did not testify.
Well, you just said you asked her, so what did she say?
My recollection, she was on duty that day. She had some childcare issues, and we were trying to navigate coverage to make sure she would come to the hearing. And then I can't remember if she wasn't responding to texts about it or if she just said she couldn't do it. I don't know the exact timeline of that.
Did you ever ask her at that point whether she supported the types of things you were claiming?
No.
But she did not testify.
She did not.
And in her transcript with Mr. Burgess, she stated on page 1, the last paragraph, I have only had one real negative interaction with Joe over the years. Is that right?
What page is that?
1,
Which document?
M28.
Yes.
Okay. And you know that there was initially an allegation against Chief Swanson that he had failed to show up when there was a problem at the police department, but that allegation was removed when it was proven that, in fact, I'm sorry, I didn't ask you to be reading things. Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay. My question was, you knew that there was initially an allegation against Chief Swanson that he failed to show up at the police station when there was some type of crisis, but that was ultimately not included in the charges because it was disproved that he had, in fact, or that he had not paid it attention, but in fact he had called consistently, he had checked in. It wasn't an allegation against him by the time charges came, correct?
It's a compound question that's confusing. As asked, I asked the question be broken down.
That's fine, I can ask it better. Okay, so you knew that the charges, you're continuing to read the document, Mr.
Sorry.
Duffy. I'm just asking you a question that it doesn't require you to be looking at the document until I'm finished. Okay? All right. We're discussing an incident that was initially alleged against Chief Swanson that he had failed to respond appropriately, let's just call it that way, to a crisis that was occurring at the police station. But you withdrew that charge after the investigation, correct?
I believe so.
And that's when you chose it to simply lack of empathy rather than actually doing anything that would be misconduct, right?
I don't think it was swapping out one for the other. I think lack of empathy was something we saw throughout the investigation.
Okay. And when Lisa Linton was complaining about things like lack of communication on page 4, you may look at page 4 now. That paragraph that Attorney Hakest,
Thank you.
Attorney Hakest read into the evidence, it says that Lisa could not think of any situations when she was being interviewed that fit the definition of indecisive off the top of her head, right?
May I read?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's the paragraph 606.
Yeah, she says, I can't think of a situation right now off the top of my head, but he's just indecisive.
Okay. And back to the initial allegation against Chief Swanson that was ultimately dropped about his failure to respond appropriately to the police station. You're aware that that initial allegation came about because it was Chief Swanson's anniversary with his husband, correct?
My recollection was there was some celebration, or I don't know if it's anniversary, it's anniversary. I'm unaware of exact.
Okay. And you're aware that the initial allegations that were disproven were about the fact that he was out, in fact, celebrating with his husband instead of doing something that somebody thought he should be doing.
I think the allegation was there were employees who were worried about their life, and they were troubled by what they thought his response was.
And where he was out having dinner with his husband.
I don't want to speak for anyone. I don't think their issue was where he was. It was his lack of empathy towards them.
But that allegation around him doing anything inappropriate was withdrawn.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Next thing we talked about, I believe, was Sergeant O'Keefe and the people who resigned under him. And you said that one of them hadn't worked for a year. That corresponded with Chief Swanson not being there, right?
Yes.
So can you assume that that person did not want to work under Sergeant O'Keefe if he had been working before and then did not work for that year?
I feel like if I answer this question the way I want to, I'm going to be talking about a personnel concern or issue, and I just want to say that out loud before I go forward.
I'm going to instruct Mr. Duffy not to testify about confidential personnel matters that don't directly relate to Mr. Swanson at the risk of not having that evidence in. I want to protect employee privacy.
This is a yes or no question. Did you assume that or not? If you did, fine. If you didn't, you can say that.
So what's the direct question?
Could you assume, would it be reasonable for you to assume that Denno McIntyre did not work for a year that corresponded with Chief Swanson's unlawful demotion because he didn't want to work under Sergeant O'Keefe?
It may not be a yes or no answer, and it sounds like Mr. Duffy cannot answer the question without getting into specific details regarding Mr. McIntyre, which are not at issue in any way today.
I agree that I see limited relevance on this, but I'm going to re-ask the question. Did you make any assumption about this employee's intentions?
No.
Okay.
So you made assumptions when it benefited your theory about Chief Swanson, but you didn't make any assumptions when it went against that, about why people were staying or leaving.
What I said was no one came to me and told me they're leaving due to interim chief O'Keefe.
So you didn't make any assumptions one way or another whether that was due to Sergeant O'Keefe.
Again, I think I'm in the same position I was with the last question.
It's only whether you did or did not make any assumptions. It's not about revealing any confidential information.
Assumptions ask for Mr. Duffy's internal thought process based on information he had in his position as town manager regarding confidential employee matters. If he feels like he can't answer the question without discussing that, I'm going to instruct him not to answer out of an abundance of caution. And
Okay.
take the adverse inference if I need to.
Is the question still on the table?
Yeah.
I guess my question for you is, how is this relevant in this situation? What's the offer of proof on it?
The relevance is what we've been talking about all along, that he assumes negative inferences about Chief Swanson and if people are going to leave. And when people leave under Sergeant O'Keefe, he assumes positive things, that it does nothing to do with Sergeant O'Keefe.
The difference is employees have come and testified directly about Mr. Swanson. Mr. Duffy has testified no one made any sort of comment that he's aware of regarding the reasons for their departure being attributed to Mr. O'Keefe. That's a pretty significant difference that puts this way outside of any probative value.
I will attempt to re-ask the question. Did any other employee make any representation to you about the basis for their departure?
Of the 7 that we've discussed,
Yes.
one was a part-time employee who was not happy that they had a set schedule and wanted to more work whenever they could work, and was frustrated with that line of that way of scheduling.
Carry on.
So you were aware that one employee was unhappy with Sergeant O'Keefe,
They were unhappy with the scheduling that was taking place in the department.
and who was doing that scheduling? I assume it was Sergeant O'Keefe.
I believe it was Sergeant O'Keefe and Interim Chief O'Keefe and Sergeant Salvatore.
So it included Sergeant O'Keefe.
Potentially. I'm not sure who did that schedule that month.
In fact, one employee, Terry, literally walked out without any notice or under Sergeant O'Keefe, without any notice or any kind of process, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't make any negative assumptions that might be related to Sergeant O'Keefe?
Again, I'm back in the same position.
All right, you know what, I'm gonna move on. This is not going anywhere. I can see that. I think we covered yesterday that, I think we said 6 yesterday, but now 7 officers have left for various reasons under Sergeant O'Keefe.
So they're not officers, they're
Oh, I'm sorry.
2 full-time officers have left.
2 full-time officers, 1 part-time officer,
Actually, 2 part-time officers.
2 part-time officers, 2 full-time officers, a parking person, and that's 7? No.
And then a full-time dispatcher and a part-time dispatcher.
Oh, the dispatchers as well. Exactly. Okay. And your testimony is we are not to make any negative inferences about Sergeant O'Keefe based on those resignations.
I think Mr. Duffy cannot provide his full reasoning and assessment without getting into the specific details of all of these situations which are confidential personnel matters, not at issue at this hearing as to why in the 3 letters he issued, that conduct does or does not form a sufficient basis to remove Mr. Swanson from the position of chief.
I do agree. I think if these employees have made any representations about the basis for leaving, I think that is private personnel information, and they're entitled to keep that private. I think if Mr. Duffy formed any impressions, perhaps that's fair game in the circumstances, if it relates to, in some way, to Mr. O'Keefe. But generally speaking, I think that this is private employee information that is not relevant, and it ought to be kept confidential to protect their information.
Okay, but my question was really just, it was my last question actually on this line. It was just about the fact that no negative inferences were made. I wasn't asking for any information about personnel policy, records.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Do you think you can answer that question?
So is the question, did I make any negative inferences on Chris O'Keefe from these 7 employees?
Yes.
No.
Okay, thank you. We can move on. Let's move on to Sergeant O'Keefe's, your testimony about Sergeant O'Keefe. He told you he was never out of uniform on duty, correct?
That was not the question was, have I seen him out of uniform while on duty? And I said no. Okay.
Did you ever discuss with Sergeant O'Keefe whether he was in fact ever out of uniform on duty?
Once or twice. Once something happened, I forget what it was, and he got his uniform wet on his way into work, and so he was in his office in other clothes while his uniform dried. And then I think there was a similar incident as well where something happened, so he was out of uniform for a short period of time.
So you are aware that Sergeant O'Keefe has in fact been out of uniform in the office doing official police work?
In both instances, there was an incident that happened that caused his uniform to not be properly able to be worn, and he let me know about it to let me know what was going on.
He called you as he was sitting there not in uniform, and to tell you he was not in uniform?
I don't know if he called me while he was not in uniform. He called me and let me know about the situation, yes.
He called you when you inquired about whether he was wearing
No, he
uniform?
called me to let me know ahead of time that something had happened to his uniform.
So on 2 occasions, he called you and told you he was going to come to work out of uniform?
I don't know if this situation happened on his way to work or while at work, but there were, I think, 2 instances where he could not have his full police uniform on, and he let me know either in the moment or right after the fact.
And did you ever inquire as to whether there were other instances?
No, because I believe those instances show that he would tell me if something happened.
Do you know if these reports to you from Sergeant O'Keefe came after a request was made to preserve video evidence of him being in the office out of uniform?
No, because I believe we're all very confused on what those pair of requests were for. Because it's from a resident that's not in the police department, so we weren't sure why they were asking for camera footage.
I didn't ask if you knew. I'm saying, do you know if Sergeant O'Keefe reported these after that preservation request was made?
I think this is getting quite far outside the scope of my examination, and I don't see the relevance of this in particular. We've covered Mr. Duffy's knowledge of Mr. O'Keefe's alleged uniform issues at length.
I do agree we're getting a bit outside the scope of Attorney Haig's examination. I'll allow that question, but can we move on?
I do not know, because again, I think Sergeant Interim Chief O'Keefe and myself were both confused about what that request was. So he would have no knowledge of why that request came in. So I doubt that him letting me know had anything to do with the para request.
And in terms of the haircut on duty situation, you stated that you told Sergeant O'Keefe, you counseled him that he should not be getting a haircut on duty, and that was, and he said fine, he wouldn't, right?
Yes.
And you would have told Chief Swanson the same thing, correct?
I would have told Chief Swanson not to get into a town-owned vehicle, drive 20 minutes away to a different town, sit down for a haircut, get back in that car, and either drive back to Woodstock or somewhere else, is what I would have told Chief Swanson.
Right, you would have told them similar things in terms
Those are
of
two
not-
very different things.
Pardon me?
Those are two very different things.
Well, we would have instructed either one of them not to get a haircut on duty, right?
I would, and I think there's a difference between getting one in the village of Woodstock with an elected official and getting one 20 minutes away in a different town.
Are you saying now that getting a haircut with an elected official is some kind of, I don't know, privilege?
No, but it is a person involved in the government, and so a conversation could happen that is considered work-related as well.
So you're saying that Sergeant O'Keefe's getting a haircut with Trustee Blakeman was somehow better because she was a trustee?
I think it is some form of community policing.
Pardon me?
I don't think it's not some, I think it's some form of community policing, to be in the community, talking to people while on duty. Yes.
So you approve of your
I did not say
officers?
approve it. I told him that it should not happen again, but I did not think it rose to the level of leaving the town for over an hour to get a haircut.
But in any event, you told him it shouldn't happen again.
Correct.
And if you had told Chief Swanson that getting a haircut shouldn't happen again, there's no reason for you to believe he wouldn't have abided by that.
Potentially. But I think it's two very different scenarios we're talking about here.
I'm not asking if they're two different scenarios. You've already explained that quite sufficiently. But in terms of the outcome, in terms of the expectation, you expected that Sergeant O'Keefe would not do it again when you told him. You gave him notice, right?
Correct.
And that notice was that he had a haircut on duty, and in the future, he would not, because you told him not to.
Correct.
So, if you had given Chief Swanson notice that of your opinions about haircuts on duty, he also would. First, let me back up. So, should Sergeant O'Keefe had known ahead of time that he should not get a haircut on duty?
Yes.
Okay, so Sergeant O'Keefe should have known something that he should not have had a haircut on duty. You still gave him an opportunity, a second chance, or however many chances to correct that by saying, don't do it again, and you accepted that he wouldn't do it again.
Yes.
But when Chief Swanson, when you learned he got a haircut on duty, you decided that was cause for termination.
I gave Chief Swanson a warning in January of 2 letters that his behavior would lead up to termination, and he was not to enter the police department, and he chose to ignore that guidance and those rules and enter the police department and enter secure things against my direct demands. So I have concerns about Chief Swanson following my directives.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you found out that, just like you found out after the fact, right, that Sergeant O'Keefe had a haircut on duty. You didn't find that out contemporaneously. You found out that later. Is that correct?
I found right after it happened.
Because it was publicized and there was pictures of him getting a haircut, right?
Well, good. Interim chief called me and told me.
Because he knew he had been photographed, right?
Yes, there was clear incident, and there were, I believe, police complaints about it as well.
Okay. So I'm talking about when you found out this February incident had never occurred, when you first found out that Chief Swanson was obtaining a haircut on work time.
So you're talking about,
The February 20th incident you're referring to had not yet occurred when you found out about the haircuts, right?
no, but I'm saying February 20th was before any found discipline to Joe Swanson, and that incident proves that directives to him may not be followed.
You're not understanding me. back when you found out about the haircut,
Whose
when you
haircut?
first found out
Who's
of
haircut?
Chief Swanson getting a haircut on duty, when it came up,
Mhm.
when you first found that out, you found that out after it happened, just like with Sergeant O'Keefe, right? You found out after it happened.
Yes.
And instead of giving him a directive to not do that, you decided it was cause for termination.
I found out about him leaving town to do numerous personal errands, not just haircuts, in the whole part of the investigation. So when I came to discipline, there were a number of factors laid out in the trustees' findings, all together led me to the decision that I made. It wasn't a one-off thing. It wasn't like I found out Joe got a haircut 2 years ago, didn't do anything for 2 years, and then moved forward. It was I found this all out all together in the span of 3 months.
But you made these allegations before the trustees made their findings,
Yes.
okay? And when you made the allegations back in October, November of 2024, you decided that getting a haircut did not require any prior warning or advance notice that he shouldn't get one, that he should have known and he should be terminated for that, as part of the determination.
I believe that's the same question Attorney Frost just asked Mr. Duffy.
Is that a different question, or is that the same question?
It's a different question.
It's, if it is the same question, it's the first time that's
Okay.
happened, we'll give some leeway, so.
So can you ask it again?
Yeah. I can't even remember what it is now, so,
I
He
apologize.
asked her to repeat the question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
all right, let me see if we can clarify this more succinctly. So, you find out that Chief Swanson has obtained haircuts at times on duty. I'm not on duty, on work time. Not the duty officer, but on work time, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You don't give Chief Swanson any opportunity to correct that behavior by telling him, as you told Chief Swanson, don't do that.
When I found out he was on admin leave because we were doing an investigation, and him leaving the municipality for personal errands were a wide range of things that led me to my decision on discipline.
When did these numerous personal errands occur?
We have the testimony from people who spoke about it at the hearing last March.
Yeah, did they ever say when, where, what, why?
I believe it was sometimes they said, without the transcript in front of me, that he would go home, that he would go up to the lake, that he'd come back from a haircut and just leave, or he would not come back from a haircut, or he'd take a 2-3 hour lunch. I believe those are things that came up in the hearing last March.
And I asked you yesterday, was there any objective evidence of this? Do we know when they occurred?
No, I don't have dates on them now.
Or do we know how often? Do we have any specific amounts of times or any details of that?
No, just what the witnesses have said.
General overall allegations of these various things without specifics.
Yeah.
And somehow you are believing that Chief Swanson went to the lake during the middle of the day, which is his lake house, which is an hour and 45 minutes away from the police station, that he went there during the day.
That's what one or two witnesses have said, yes. Or maybe it was a Friday afternoon. I don't know.
But you just accepted that without any verification.
There were numerous people all saying the same thing.
Okay, so
I have a question. The lake house incident came up once here. It wasn't part of the original questioning, correct? So you never asked, Attorney Frost, you never asked about anything to do with the lake house incident except for here, correct?
correct.
Okay. I'm just asking because I just want to separate what was asked at the hearing
Okay.
versus what's here.
Okay.
So my question was that, I hadn't made a question yet. My question is, so if enough people say the same things without documentation, then that somehow gives it more validity for you?
Objection, testimony is evidence.
The witness can answer the question, but the point is well taken.
Yes, if almost all union members come forward with a vote of no confidence, and they talk about lack of leadership, discipline, communication, and they all mention Joe Swanson not being in the office and being out of the office, not doing police work, I take that very seriously.
And it never occurred to you that to find specific information to support those allegations, specific incidents of him, for instance, going to this lake house at some point?
I believe these witnesses testified at the hearing to the recollection of what happened.
Now, in terms of the handshaking incident, let's talk about that a little. I'll find your, oh, are we at, no, we've got
15 more minutes.
15 more minutes, okay, that's good. M214.
So I say M214?
M214, Michelle Sutherland's notarized statement here.
No. Yes.
Okay, got it?
Yes.
Everybody else up? All right. On Tuesday, it says, April 12th, Swanson, Patrolman Swanson, she's using, of course, his unlawfully demoted title here, came into the police department. So she's telling you on August 12th, she saw shaky hands. Is that correct?
Yes.
And are you aware that Chief Swanson continued to work several shifts after that?
Yes.
Okay, so whatever was going on, and the same with August 15th, you're aware that after she expressed these concerns about him using a weapon, he was in fact still working his shifts?
Yes.
Okay, and you didn't find that at all concerning, that an employee who is so concerned that he's going to somehow misuse his weapon because of shaking hands does not believe that it is critical that he be removed immediately?
So when it got brought to my attention, we consulted with counsel on HR issues that concern this, and they walked us through the correct procedure to put him on leave until we got the admin letter.
So you're saying advice of counsel is what what you're relying on when you removed Chief Swanson?
We use them to help us go through the correct process.
Are you saying that advice of counsel is your defense for this activity?
No. I'm
Okay.
saying we use them for the help with the process.
So you're not claiming that advice of counsel is the basis for this decision?
No.
Okay. So you made a decision to keep him on his shifts, several shifts. In fact, you're aware that he worked 14th, the 15th, the 16th. You have his records, right? You know what he was working after
Yes.
this? Okay. So he worked all those days, and somehow that was acceptable, but he had to be taken out immediately on August 20th.
So I believe his schedule that he was off, I don't have it in front of me, but I think he was off that Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We knew he was off for a few days. And I think this was brought to my attention on the 15th, and we worked as quickly as we could.
But you've already testified or I have the records if you don't, but you know he worked after these allegations were made. You've already said that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And there was no effort to remove him immediately upon the knowledge that his hands were shaking so bad that he couldn't use a weapon.
So I think this happened the first or second time, then it was witnessed another time, and then we realized that it was serious and we moved forward.
Where's the other affidavit? Not affidavit, where's the other statement?
I think I spoke yesterday that Corporal Murphy witnessed it as well.
Oh, the person who had asked him to work for her that day.
Yes.
Okay. She didn't provide you anything like Michelle Sutherland?
No.
Okay. And when you decided, when this was brought to your attention, I think we've discussed this yesterday, so I don't need to belabor it, but you never went to Chief Swanson and asked him, for instance, to demonstrate whether he could use a weapon.
He has superiors who oversee him, and so the thought process was we had reports of a shaky hand. Out of abundance of caution, we wanted him to go and get checked to make sure he was okay. And he was out of duty for 24 hours.
Well, that was only because he took the initiative and got the paperwork done in that time. You actually gave him like at least a couple of weeks that you were planning to keep him out unless he got the paperwork, right?
We gave him enough time to make an appointment to get his hand checked. We didn't want to say you had to do this in 12 hours. That would have been ridiculous.
Well, you saw his affidavit. His concern was if he didn't get it immediately, you would say, oh, it must have resolved and it was legitimate, but he got it immediately, and that's why you returned him to work immediately, right?
We're gonna return him to work the moment he was cleared.
Right, and that was immediately.
Yes.
Okay. And again, you didn't authorize Sergeant O'Keefe to go maybe see if he could use a gun or if there was any issue. You didn't authorize any additional investigation into this shaking hand business.
I don't think Interim Chief O'Keefe is a health official who could make that recommendation.
Is Michelle Sutherland a health official who could make a recommendation that he could not use a weapon because his hand was shaking so bad?
No, that was her concern,
Right.
as it was my concern as well. But again, because I'm not a health official, I wanted a health official to weigh in.
And the way you're speaking, you believe this is a total reasonable reaction to getting a letter like this that says that there was some shaky hands going on when he handed over a ticket or when he handed over a subpoena. That was sufficient for you to initiate this entire process and have him taken out on medical leave after he had worked several shifts.
I think numerous reports of an officer with shaky hands who's required to carry a gun and a taser, drive a vehicle, and interact with the public in a potential hostile way. Shaky hands is a massive concern that we wanted to ensure was under control.
So all an employee has to do to get someone taken out on administrative medical leave is to say that they've observed them with shaky hands, and then you will take them out?
Objection. Well, Mr. Duffy just stated there were more than one report. And
Two. Okay, I'll rephrase it. If two employees say that they observed somebody has shaky hands, that's all it takes to keep someone out of work and on administrative leave?
If I'm getting reports of an officer who has to carry a gun and or taser, potentially use them, has to potentially drive a car at high speeds in a high traffic area, and potentially has to deal with hostile residents or criminals, and there are reports that something could inhibit their ability to do that, it's my job as a municipal manager to ensure that that person is able to do the job correctly.
Right. But
So if your question is, if I have two reports of an officer having shaky hands, I will put that officer on leave and have them go get a health notice. Yes.
So if two employees get together and decide that they want to say that another employee has shaky hands, that's sufficient for you?
Yes.
Okay. And Michelle Sutherland was one of those employees.
Yes.
And you recall from the last hearing that she didn't want to answer the question, but she was required to answer the question, that she, in fact, provided a email saying she was intimidated and upset by Chief Swanson's visit. For one purpose was to help you to remove Chief Swanson. You remember that testimony?
Object to the characterization of that testimony. The entire transcript is here. If there's particular testimony Attorney Frost would like to use to cross Mr. Duffy, I ask that she be required to do so rather than rely on representations.
We could go to the actual testimony.
Sustained, yeah.
That will help clarify it. Let me find it. I know she was the first witness, so it shouldn't take long. Oh, actually, I have an index.
So I just wondered the date of that, because it's not on here.
I don't.
This is tab 18. I've been working about it.
Actually, do you want to take lunch now? I'll find it when we come back.
So that we could do that. I mean, I was gonna, first of all, I haven't, well, procedurally.
It won't take me very long, but
How much further do you think you have?
I have only, I'm at almost at the end. I probably just have another 10, 15 minutes at the most, at the most.
I think we should
Yeah.
keep going, but
Okay.
the board has a question about Exhibit J, which is undated. Yeah, tab
In
18.
in yours, Attorney Frost.
And your black binder.
Pardon me?
And it's really a question for the witness, which is, what are the dates of these documents in Exhibit 18? The notice is placing then Officer Swanson on leave. If you recall.
I want to check my email at lunch if that's possible. I don't want to give.
Is that for the line of questioning that Attorney
So the
Frost
second
has?
one
It's
said,
helpful.
police are adding leave effective August 20th, 2025. So the second letter says August 20th.
Okay, so do you think you sent that on August 20th, 2025?
What are we talking about? I'm sorry.
Number 18 in your binder, I was asking for the date of when these emails were sent to Chief Swanson.
Oh, got it.
It looks like it's August 20th, is that,
That sounds right to me.
okay, thank you.
Okay. And then the other notice, what date was that in relation to the August 20th?
They were both the same.
They were both the same date, thank you.
Is that your recollection, Mr. Duffy?
Okay, I did find the,
Yes, I believe some at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay.
Go ahead.
I
Just keep
found
going.
the reference. We start on page 89. I think for context, we have to start on page 89 and go forward. So if you could get to that. Let's just go to the bottom of it first, just for some context. I asked, and when Chief Swanson left, I asked this to Michelle Sutherland, she's under oath. When Chief Swanson left, you immediately told Mr. Duffy that you felt threatened, intimidated, and uncomfortable, correct? She says, correct. We go on to the next page. You thought that would be helpful to Mr. Duffy? Yes. You thought it would be helpful to Mr. Duffy in his case against Chief Swanson, is that correct? She says, I'm not going to answer that. And then the question was, you're not going to answer that? And she said, uh-huh. And I asked, it says Mr. Klesch, but that's just a typo. I asked, can you instruct the witness to answer? And hearing Officer Monahan said, we need you to answer the question. Okay, answer, can you repeat the question? I said, yes. You thought it would be helpful to Mr. Duffy in his case against Chief Swanson? And she says, yes. That's the end of it.
Okay, so what's the question for the witness?
Yes. My question had been, to begin with, you recalled that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And yet you gave Michelle Sutherland's statement here on August 15th full credibility, even though she had already indicated that she would do things to assist in the removal of Chief Swanson.
So I would take issue with your second part of your statement. I think, not speaking for her, I think what she meant was she understood that what Chief Swanson did was wrong on February 20th and was inappropriate, and that because of those two things, that it could further along the case why you can't be chief. In terms of giving what she said credence, it was one of two people who came forward and said his hands were shaking. And again, in my role as municipal manager of the town, I have to protect the town. And if I get the report from Michelle Sutherland and I do nothing, and Joe Swanson in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks has to pull his taser or a gun or is driving and his hand shakes and he gets in an accident or causes harm to someone, this letter creates a massive liability for the town by me not acting on it.
You do understand that the law only requires reasonable and objective analysis of what is reasonable under certain circumstances, correct?
That's a legal question. If you
I agree.
can frame it in his duties.
You could ask him within the scope of his knowledge and experience as manager what his responsibilities are, but I don't think the legal
Okay.
analysis is.
Okay, let me rephrase that. You didn't feel the need to evaluate this based on reasonableness and objective information. You were just accepting the statements of Michelle Sutherland and the other officer.
No, it looked like a reasonable concern by an employee.
So you are testifying that you believe that this was reasonable and based on objective evidence?
I am testifying that I believe what Michelle Sutherland said on August 12th and August 15th.
Are you familiar with the ADA requirements for when you can take an employee out of work for medical reasons?
Same objection, and he's also testified he consulted with counsel to do the right way, and I'm gonna instruct him not to reveal any communications with counsel.
Can you answer the question without relying on your communications with counsel?
It's my understanding the process we took in terms of an employee having shaky hands and ensuring they were okay was appropriate.
I asked you if you were familiar with the requirements of ADA.
I don't have them in front of me, I'm not an expert on it, so no.
Were you familiar with the requirements of ADA when you took Chief Swanson out of work on involuntary medical?
Same objection.
I guess my question is, how is that relevant? Because I didn't understand there to be a request for a reasonable accommodation in this circumstance. It was simply a notification to the employer that there was potentially an issue. So I'm trying to understand how the ADA is implicated.
Yeah, this is absolutely, this is a violation of ADA, and it goes to the issue of bias because nothing was followed in terms of the law, which obviously that's a trial within a trial here, so we're not going to have that. So I'm just asking if he was familiar with those requirements. Your statement, it doesn't really make any sense. He was not offered any reasonable accommodations, and the ADA requires an offer. It doesn't mean the employee has to. Chief Swanson didn't even know he was going to be taken out. How could he ask for reasonable accommodations when the first notice he gets that he's being taken out for involuntary medical leave is on August 20th? He can't ask for them. That's the employer's responsibility under ADA to provide those.
This all just goes to show why this is completely outside the scope of this hearing, as I initially objected. All of this has nothing to do with what Mr. Duffy did or did not rely on when making his actual decision to demote Mr. Swanson. We've done our best to respond to this evidence, but these sideshow legal claims that Attorney Frass wants to raise on behalf of her client in the civil matter should be decided there. This allegation, which we deny, it's not appropriate to be taken up by the trustees at this time when the only decision is about the demotion decision based on the information and evidence available prior to the trustees' first decision.
Attorney Monahan, if the trustees do not want to hear this evidence, I will move on. But I think in terms of the civil case and liability, that the more information that they have regarding Manager Duffy's behavior and actions that prove or are indirect evidence of bias is something that they may want to know about in order to reduce the town's liability. If they don't want to know about that, and if you want to order me to move on, I am willing to do that.
The ruling is that the question is allowed, and the trustees will give it the weight that it is entitled to when they consider it. So go ahead.
My question was, I believe, were you familiar with the ADA policy that required you to offer some reasonable accommodation before taking Chief Swanson out of work completely?
And I will just say, I'm not sure that that is an exact statement of the ADA. I wonder if you could break that question down. It's quite compound.
I can do that. It was all in an affidavit. It probably makes sense to break for lunch and let me.
I object to that. I'd like to be able to talk to Mr. Duffy on the break to prepare, which I can't do if she continues to cross. There's plenty of time now to finish 5 or 10 more minutes of questions.
Yeah, the trustees have said to me they want to finish with your examination before we get to lunch, so please proceed.
Okay. So, what is your understanding, Manager Duffy? Let's just go that way. What is your understanding of what your requirements were under the ADA with respect to your employee, Chief Swanson?
My understanding, based on the advice I got, was that
I'm just going to instruct you not to describe the advice you got
Okay.
from counsel. This question cannot be answered without revealing attorney-client communications, and I therefore object and instruct Mr. Duffy not to answer.
If you can answer the question without relying on your communications with counsel, please do.
I don't believe I can.
Okay?
Okay, we'll move on. So you testified that you were concerned about the liability for the town if you took Chief Swanson, if you did not take Chief Swanson out of work for 2 complaints of shaky hands, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You were not concerned for the liability of the town if you did things that were unlawful, like an unlawful demotion or not following the ADA guidelines. Is that correct?
I object to your terminology.
You're not allowed to object. You're a witness. Your attorney objects for you.
I disagree with your terminology, then.
So, are you concerned? Were you concerned about liability also for unlawfully demoting Chief Swanson?
I believe my decision that I recommended the trustees to remove Joe Swanson from office is correct, and I stand by it.
So even though the court has reversed you on that and said the demotion was unlawful, you still believe your behavior was lawful?
I object to that characterization of the trial court's decision. The trial court did not say the decision was unlawful. The trial court directed the trustees to consider the legal standards under Vermont statutes and which in a footnote are essentially the same as the employment agreement.
This is easily proven. We have the court order, and this characterization is completely false.
Okay,
It
so
said there was
let me just jump in.
egregious mistake.
The court decision speaks for itself.
It does.
I know everybody's got their own view of it. I think the bigger question for me is, what's the time period at issue? Because I thought you were asking about contemporaneous to when he took action involving Mr. Swanson, not now. So I'm confused.
Say that again? What?
Your line of questioning appeared to be, at least moments ago, talking about, say, 2024 into 2025 when he put Mr. Swanson on leave. And it seems to have changed into what is your understanding of it now?
No, he's just testified. I was following up on a testimony around this. He just testified that his words were he believes now. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked the question. He was talking in the present tense, that he believes now. I'm not asking what he believed then. He testified. He believes
Okay.
now that the demotion was proper, despite the court's order.
Okay, so is there a question pending?
Yes, it was pending. But you still believe that your recommendation for demotion was proper, even though the court found that it was reversed.
As I said, I stand by my decision.
Okay. All right, I think we're getting to the end here. Have you ever asked Sergeant O'Keefe about what his views are? I know you testified about some of your views about discrimination and homophobia. Have you ever asked Sergeant O'Keefe how he feels about gay people?
No, I have not.
Okay. Have you ever looked at his Facebook posts or anything like that to ascertain what his thoughts and feelings may be about that subject?
I have not. I do not know if a background check was done before he was hired or not, but if so, that would have covered that.
I think you gave as one example for not being homophobic or biased that you hired Chief Swanson in the first place, correct?
I said I hired Chief Swanson, yes.
Okay. In an affidavit that you gave, and this is the one I gave yesterday, I'm going to read it. You said that you took issue when Joseph Swanson said in an affidavit said that he was the best qualified candidate for the job, correct?
I don't have the terminology in front of me, but I think I was objecting to the fact that he was saying that, you know, it was a nationwide search and he was the best candidate, so yeah.
So you took issue with him being the best available candidate?
I think the best available candidate was my language.
Okay. Let me show you. I gave you this to you yesterday. I don't know if you still have it. It's the affidavit of September. I didn't bring it with me today, but it was provided. September 22nd, 2025.
I don't.
I can show you what I'm going to show him first if you don't have it.
If you gave it to me yesterday, that's fine.
Okay. I did.
Okay. And when is this one?
This is just for impeachment.
Attorney Frost likes to read, is planning to read something to Mr. Duffy. She can identify what it is. I see that the trustees have a question about it. I just wanted to orient you on
Okay.
that.
This is an affidavit, the one we looked at yesterday when you said there was no dress codes, the same one. Under oath, September 22nd, 2025, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we're going to get to the statement up here where you were taking issue with several of the allegations that Chief Swanson made in his affidavit. And let's go to this one. Swanson affidavit, paragraph 11, quote, Swanson, or description, Swanson was deemed to be the best available candidate at the time. You respond, only 8 applicants applied for the position. Of those 8, only 4 were deemed worthy of an interview. From those 4, only 2 had any real experience, Swanson and the other. They were both given final interviews. The other candidate had potential issues at their current town. And my understanding is that applicant is no longer employed in Vermont, based upon their behavior and actions during their tenure in their position. Thus, Swanson was the only viable option at the end of the search. It was not the case that there were multiple viable options and Swanson was the best of the options. That's what you wrote in a public document, a pleading under oath, correct?
Yes.
So basically, what you were saying was that Chief Swanson was the last resort, and wasn't that you hired him because you were not homophobic. You hired him because you did not have any other choice, right?
Object to the question. I just read the actual affidavit. That speaks for itself.
I just quoted it, exactly.
And she's saying in other words, and then trying to say it says something that it doesn't say.
The affidavit speaks for itself, but the witness is here to respond to it, so if she's asking him to elaborate on it, that's a fair question.
Okay.
Yes. I said that you, in fact, said that he was hired because, not because you were not homophobic, because he was the last resort.
I'm not homophobic. He was hired. He was the only viable candidate. The options were to hire him or to start a new search. And there were qualities of Joe Swanson that I found attractive and could be beneficial. Unfortunately, those did not come to fruition.
And you found this out after a year where he had been working, and you only decided that they didn't come to fruition when other members of the police department or dispatchers came to you and in a group decided that he should go.
It came to my attention after I put him on admin leave following the October 13th, 2024 incident. And if I'm able to speculate, I think employees saw that I held Joe Swanson to a consequence that they have not seen before, and then realized that maybe they could come forward with information that they felt they couldn't come forward with before.
That's the story you tell yourself,
That is what I believe happened.
based on whatever you've decided in your mind. Nothing had come to fruition. You said something about fruition. Nothing had come to fruition when you gave him an annual performance evaluation in June 2024, correct?
Objection, this is a common question and it's getting argumentative.
I agree on both of those, actually. Can you make that one question?
Yeah. Nothing had come to fruition in June of 2024 when you gave him an excellent performance review.
Nothing that rose to the level that I found out after October.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. We'll break there, and
Yep.
it's still your case.
Do you want to do that now or after the break?
Agree.
I like 5 minutes at the most.
Yeah.
And then I get, I have one or two potential questions.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay. I guess first, do you still have this big white binder? Could you go to page 95?
Okay.
Starting at line 2, the question, this is still Ms. Sutherland, question line 2, and you answer the question and you thought it would be helpful to Mr. Duffy's pursuit of discipline to bring to his attention Chief Swanson's visit on February 20. Answer, yes. Question 7, okay, does that fact affect whether what you describe is accurate? Answer, that's accurate. 10, okay, you weren't motivated to tell Mr. Duffy something because you wanted to help him? Answer, no. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
Do you have any reason to believe Mr. O'Keefe has taken any action towards Mr. Swanson because he is homophobic?
No.
Do you have any concerns whatsoever that Mr. O'Keefe's motivations at any point were improper or unlawful?
No.
Attorney Frass asked you about your concerns about retaliation. In general, when an employee is complaining about their boss, do you have concerns about retaliation?
Yes.
Would you have those concerns regardless of the department, regardless of the circumstances?
Yes.
And I guess I just want to put a fine point on it. The investigation by Mr. Burgess was not an investigation under the internal affairs policy, correct?
Correct.
Okay, those are my specific questions. Thank you.
We done?
Done.
Thank you. All right. We will resume. Can we say 1:30?
Can we do one thing? For people who have to leave, I just want to make sure that that's sufficient for them.
Yeah. But who's going to leave?
What?
we're gonna go to 5 if we have to.
Yeah.
But let's begin at 1:30. So is that enough time to be able to get a bite to eat and whatnot? Okay, let's do it.
Yes, thank you.